Welcome to the VIFF Podcast, recorded on the unceded territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh Nations. This podcast is a chance to hear more from the filmmakers presenting work at the annual Vancouver International Film Festival, as well as year-round at the VIFF Centre. We hope you enjoy the show.
Hi, my name's Alan Frainie, and I'm one of the programmers at the Vancouver International Film Festival, specifically for the Portrait Series, which is a group of documentaries focused on films about art. So, we have with us today to discuss a wonderful film in the program, Alison Reid, who's here with The Art of Adventure, which is a film about both Bristol Foster and Robert Bateman, two very important Canadians, British Columbians now, and Salt Spring Island residents who are known for their past work. And this involves an environmental importance, their impact for all of us in ecological matters is very important. So, Alison, your film talks about this, but really a lot of it is about adventures in their relative youth, correct? So can you just describe how far they went at this time and the material you had to work with?
Sure. So Robert Bateman, who's, as you pointed out, not only a renowned Canadian artist, but he's known globally. He's really one of our icons. And his best friend, who's a biologist, Bristol Foster, decided to go around the world in a Land Rover in 1957. So it was Bristol's idea, and he convinced Bob to come along. And so they got this Land Rover that they had custom built in London, England, with a couple of, it was an ambulance body, so it had a couple of cots in the back. And that was their home away from home for 18 months while they went from the UK across Africa from west to east, and then up through India, Nepal, Malaya, down, and ended up going across Australia and then home. So
it's called the Bristol Torque.
The Grizzly Torque.
The Grizzly Torque, excuse me.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, of course, that's his first name. And for some reason, I'm thinking about the city Bristol and being manufactured in Britain. The Grizzly Torque. And the Grizzly Torque becomes a character in the film, really, doesn't it? And continuing to the present day.
Yes, it's such a instrument. You're right. It's a character in the film. So the word Grizzly Torque came from a comic strip that Bristol and Bob liked to read called Pogo. And Pogo had this slapped together contraption from a junkyard that the characters had these amazing adventures in. So they painted across the front of the Land Rover Grizzly Torque, and the GT we call it for short. But we're all very fond of the GT and its story. I don't know how much we want to give away here, but
well,
yes.
Some of the people watching this and listening to this will have seen the film, and some will not. But I think one of the great rewards of the film is the archival material that they shot at the time. Bristol was the one holding the camera most of the time.
Yeah.
In those days?
Yeah, so Bristol had a Bolex camera, and he's always had an affinity for film. He's a filmmaker. He made 30 nature documentaries, and he was involved in the nature of things. So he's really a filmmaker, and that's sort of his art form. So he filmed the trip with the amount of footage that the film stock that they brought with them. And Robert, of course, was painting and sketching. In fact, they went through 19 countries, and Bob painted an image for each country along the side of the Land Rover. So, they started with Canada, UK, Ghana, and it went on from then. They're all around the Land Rover. So it was quite an eye-catchy, unique vehicle.
I have known Robert Bateman's artwork for decades now, but I was delighted to see in the film both his facility as an artist when he started that trip, but also how you could see the progression of his ability to work quickly and capture the essence of animal life and landscape as well, really.
And people. Yeah.
Yeah, it is really extraordinary. And, I think it's fair to say that Robert Bateman is, although he is internationally acclaimed and many people own either books about his paintings or artworks themselves, he hasn't been as acknowledged in the Canadian fine art world, in the sense of artists who are trying to be original above all else. Robert's always been driven by a fidelity to nature, and that is kind of a humble position for an artist to take. And he's had to suffer a bit from that in the reception. And I think your film helps serve as something of a redemption of his great artistry in seeing the arc of his life. It's really important for people to see for that alone.
Thank you. Thanks. Yeah, I really, that's something that really spoke to me. And although, the film isn't about that, we do definitely, make it known that Bob, hasn't been, he's encountered some turmoil, let's say. And, I had longer scenes. I do have longer scenes cut about this in the film, but I think it boils down to two things. One is his success. And when you're very successful, I don't know what it is about some Canadians.
Human nature, maybe.
Yeah, there's some jealousies or something going on.
Resentment.
Where some resentments. Mm-hmm. And the other part of it seems to be that wildlife art isn't held by in as high esteem by the art snobs as some other types of art. In fact, there was a stage in Bob's career where he knew the art community liked, abstract the types of artwork with done with a large brush. So he tried that for a while and thankfully gravitated back to what he was drawn to do and what he's so immensely good at. And the thing about Bob's artwork is, even though it is appealing to many people who, very broad spectrum of people, and some of whom may not know much about art, like myself before I started this, as I've delved into it and talked to art experts, it's clear that he is such a master. And one of my interviews even said, if you can look at a Picasso, if you can look at a Rembrandt, look at a Bateman, because there's something for you to see. And they went into great detail about the composition and how he doesn't, it's not just a moose. It's not just an elephant or some sort of bird. I mean, he incorporates the animal into its environment, because animal is, without its environment is, as David Suzuki said in his interview, and it's basically extinct. So, I mean, the way he uses light, the way he uses, dust and mist, and I mean, he's a very accomplished artist, is what I'm trying to say, and it's, I sometimes think it's a bit of I wonder if Bob was American, or if Bob was from the UK, or
Japanese,
or if they wouldn't celebrate him, or I mean, he's not in the National Gallery of Canada. I mean, Canada has given his work as presents to Prince Charles and Diana when they got married, to King Charles and Diana when they got married. It's, he's one, he's just so accomplished, and it's just such a mind fuck, quite frankly, that he's not in the National Gallery of Art.
Well, actually, I think a lot of artists in the middle of the 20th century who were interested in representational art suffered a similar fate, because it was just considered, it'd be being done. Photography's taken over that. Abstraction and pure form is where it's at. And of course, representational painting has come back with a vengeance more than once since then. And you can capture things with a hand-created image that you can't with photography. It's getting to the essence of things, and it's a different art form.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah.
Now, Bristol Foster, we must talk about him too. And I did not know as much about, I'd heard the name, but I didn't realize what a heroic figure he is in British Columbian ecological terms, because he has been a prime mover in founding some of the ecological apparatuses we have. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Sure.
Then he was at the BC Museum as well as one of the founding people, correct? So
correct,
please elaborate.
Yeah. So in the film, again, we just scratched the surface of Bristol's accomplishments. And the one that I chose to highlight in the film, or speak most about in the film, is that he was head of the Ecological Reserves Program in British Columbia. So there are hectares and hectares of very sensitive habitat in British Columbia. I think about 200 ecological reserves that Bristol is responsible for protecting. So, I mean, he was working in tandem with, Gujau, for instance, Haida leader, who is also in our film, during the Windy Bay protest. And Bristol really made a difference that way. But most people, as Bristol says in the film, don't even know that the ecological reserves exist. And in some ways, that's a blessing because, they remain untouched, but I still think it's important that people know his contribution. I mean, the other thing that we don't mention in the film is that Bristol Foster co-wrote what's known as the Bible on Giraffes with Anne Innes Dagg, who's known as the Jane Goodall of giraffes. Who you credit along with another woman. Tell us a bit about that final credit in your film and the two women you honor in it. Sure. So the documentary I made before this is called The Woman Who Loves Giraffes, and it's about Anne Dagg, who fell in love with giraffes when she was 4 and tried to learn about them, and there was just no information. So she got her master's in biology, later a PhD, of course, and went to South Africa to study them. She became the first Western scientist, man or woman, to study any African mammal in the wild. So she was a few years before Goodall, and, again, a Canadian who we really need to celebrate. I mean, after the film came up, Anne was celebrated. She received numerous honorary doctorates, apologies from Canadian universities. Historica Canada has just made a Heritage Minute about her. It was just released a couple of days ago, which I directed and wrote. And so Anne and Bristol co-wrote this, two Canadians co-wrote this book on giraffes. So Anne had studied giraffes in South Africa. Bristol went a few years later and studied a different subspecies in Kenya, and they put their information together, and scientists around the world relied on this book for decades and decades. So Anne is the reason that I know Bristol and Bob. She considers Bob her first boyfriend. So and Bristol was in her biology class at the University of Toronto. So they were all in that same friendship circle. And ironically, when Anne was coming back from South Africa in 1957, she got married she stopped in England to get married, right when Bristol and Bob were picking up the Grizzly Torque, heading out around the globe. So they crossed paths and saw each other there. So they're really interconnected. Anyway, I do dedicate the film to Anne, and also to my mother, because my mom was also very much responsible for me getting this film made, really because of the way she raised me. I mean, she showed me by example that she just had such tenacity. If there was something she was trying to protect, like us kids or pets or whatever, she just did not stop, and she just made us feel that the world was our oyster and raised us with confidence. So.
And what was her calling? Was she involved with environmentalism?
No, not at all. She was into early childhood education. She just loved children. But I lost both of them. Mm-hmm. Yeah. During the making of this film.
Oh, recently.
Yeah.
Hence another reason for the dedication.
Yeah, exactly. And the third woman who's there were three most important women in my lives: my mom, Anne, who are both passed away, and my partner Cheryl, who I haven't killed yet. but she's also instrumental in the making of this film, because it was her idea to go to Salt Spring Island.
How many years ago was that?
That was 4 years ago. So because we were vacationing in the very place that Bob and Bristol live, I thought, how could I not be on this island and not say hi to them? And so the next thing I knew, we were all having lunch at the Batemans together, and I was hearing about this story and realizing, I got that same feeling in my gut when the same one that I got when I found out about Anne's story, where it's like, I got to tell the story.
So your instincts were strong from the beginning, mm-hmm. and it probably didn't take you too long before you started thinking about how you could do it.
Yeah.
And how did you do it? Did you self-fund this? Did you get institutional support that was very meaningful?
Yeah, it's
early on?
Even, I don't know any filmmakers that have an easy story about making a film. Like, it seems no matter what your track record is, no matter what your story is. I mean, I don't know anyone that says, I want to make this film, and the broadcasters come and everyone comes, and it doesn't work like that. Like,
even with the reputation you had from your previous films.
No. Mm-hmm. And that film did really, really well. Mm-hmm. So I was, and we had, a name attached to this one. So I was surprised at naively surprised at how hard it was to get going. And, when I started making the documentary about Anne, I started under my own steam, self-financing, and I swore I'd never do that again. But when I immersed myself in the documentary community, I realized that that story is not unique. Practically everyone self-finances to get going. And of course, I self-financed to get this one going as well. Yeah. I mean, my first development shoots were done under my own steam. So, but then we did get, so Game Theory Films, our distributor, was a very early supporter of the film. Hollywood Suite was a very early supporter of the film and instrumental in triggering other funding. Telefilm Canada, the CMF POV Fund, Rogers Documentary Fund, Ontario Creates, they're all funders and supporters of this film.
And does that then set the stage for how the general public will be able to see it? Is there some sort of broadcast plan already in place?
Yeah, so Hollywood Suite is our Canadian broadcaster, but so we just premiered here at VIFF, our world premiere of fantastic night. I will never forget at the Playhouse. And so we'll be, rolling out at film festivals from here until April of 2026. And Hillary at Game Theory has strategically decided to launch our theatrical release in conjunction with World Earth Day. Mm-hmm. So that's when we hope to be in cinemas, across Canada.
Well, that's great. It's a film that rewards being seen on the big screen, I think, for a few reasons. One, because, well, first of all, cinema's great, and it's always good to see things on the big screen. But in this case in particular, the artwork can really be studied in a way that transcends simply looking at a book. And you're able to see a lot of Bateman's work that would be hard to access otherwise. And then also, the landscapes, this journey, we didn't mention the fact that this was often perilous adventure. This is like the story that used to dream about, every boy's story about going out into the jungle and running into wild animals, and it's astonishing how vivid that is in the film because of that original footage. It's not done now with CGI. It's the real thing, and it's got a lot of flavor to it.
Thank you. Yeah. It really is. It really is an incredible record. I mean, when you think that was 68 years ago, and to have that that trip documented, I mean, it's a real marker of where the world was then and how it's changed.
So just back to there being Salt Spring Islanders and this whole question of ecological reserves. I happen to live on Salt Spring as well, and I'm right next to an ecological reserve, and we've got more and more parts of the island and other parts of British Columbia that are being protected, sometimes through the equivalent of a will. If someone has a property that they treasure and they're passing it on, and it's a large property, then they can put a covenant, an ecological covenant, on part of it and get a tax advantage from doing so, and still have some property to pass on to their ancestors. So this is something that Bristol and Robert too have been prime drivers in. And here in Canada, I think we're in such a fortunate position to be able to think this way. Not many countries have as much crown land and private land that is like parkland as we do. So I view your film as being inspirational and motivational for people to see from that point of view of protecting our future.
Oh, thank you. And you're teaching me something. See, I did not know that about Salt Spring Island and Bob and Bristol have, as you said, have both been so involved in conservation efforts. I mean, we go into that a bit in the film, but what was your question? Sorry, I've lost my
It wasn't so much a question as an observation.
Yeah.
Just sort of underlining what to me was your choice of subject when you went to Salt Spring and saw the place and then met them and were inspired to make the film. I think that's a bit contagious with people who will look at the film and realize that both Robert and Bristol can be seen as heroic figures, in the sense that they were the early drivers of this sort of ecological consciousness. And it's come to mean more and more to us with the passage of time.
That's right. And I hope that that's what will draw a lot of people to see the film. But I also think there's a segment of people that will just want to go on will be drawn to the film because of the adventure. Like, this is like 2/3 of the film is these two guys in their 20s on this crazy adventure in this grizzly torque. And so I see it as a friendly way into the conservation ecological story. But you're right, Bristol and Bob are just incredibly lovable characters. And I think you see Bob, Bob's been interviewed up the wazoo, but I think you see him in this film a bit differently than you've seen him before. And Bristol has my editors all, Dave Casala edited this film. He's Oscar nominated for the To Kill a Tiger, and he's an incredibly sensitive, amazing filmmaker. So he did an amazing job in telling this story and showing the characters of Bob and Bristol, because they, we allude to this in the film as well. They are, Bristol has an incredible sense of humor. And he's, he's the kind of guys that eats mosquitoes and bugs and crazy mushrooms and, whatever he feels like. He's very connected to nature. But Yeah, they're heroes. Absolutely, they're heroes. But I think it's the story's told, and they are inspirational. Like, it's not a downer conservation film. You know what I mean? It's like not a.
That's very true, and it's important because you want to be, entertaining audiences. People choose wisely how they're going to spend their time, and your film fires on all cylinders.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. And I think the other thing that brings resonance to it for me anyway is that, they're 95, Bob's 95, Bristol's 93. So, they're in the twilight. And, there was a thought, do we lean into their age in this film? Luckily we have footage of them from, spanning from when they were in their 20s,
Very
all
spry,
through their
indestructible life. Seemingly.
Yeah. So you see them go from that to, what it's like when you're, 93 and 95. I mean, things are going to start to happen to your body. I mean, thankfully they're still spry. They still have their spirit.
Certainly willing. They were up on stage with us.
I know. Mm-hmm. And they still are engaged with life, And I have to say that I think, I'm not naive. I know that as well as there being a more mature audience for this film. I mean, people that may know them and want to reconnect and know more about Bob in particular story. There's a young audience for this film. I mean, it's a love letter for young people. I mean, Bristol's message is like, when you go on your travels, like, put down your phone or like really connect with where you are. I mean, so much of our travel these days, and I'm guilty of it myself, is like, oh, let's take a selfie of me here, let's take a selfie of me there, rather than really immersing in the people of the area or the area.
It's true. And these are values that smart young people are really taking to heart. And they're both also, particularly Bristol, quite outspoken on political motivation, right?
Yeah.
You speak up and take care of what you care about and don't take no for an answer.
That's
if you
right.
think things are going wrong.
Yeah. I mean, I've got a 27-year-old working on the film right now. She's helping us with social media and our YouTube channel and stuff. And she had that's the thing. When I tell people about this film, I get one of two responses. Robert Bateman, no way. Oh my God, I love him. We have his art. My parents have his art. I met him when, I got to see this film. Or Jason Bateman, who, mm-hmm. And these are people like in their 40s even. Mm-hmm. So what a crime that so much of the Canadian population isn't even aware of this Canadian icon.
Who I think we can reiterate has had major international attention.
Yeah. Like, we should know his name like Terry. I think everyone knows Terry Fox, right? Mm-hmm. We should know his name like that. And Bristol's as well. So she saw the film and she's like, oh my God, I connect so much to these guys because I want to do that trip. I know I can't do it that way, but this is what I want to do. And the film spoke to me so much. So, and I don't think she's unique. Other people have told us the same thing. So I'm going to be, targeting a younger audience as well.
I want to stop quickly on you, Alison, because I know that you're well known for The Woman Who Loved Giraffes, and also, although I haven't seen it, I know that it was a relatively good commercial success, The Baby Formula, which was 2008, which is a comedy, a pregnancy-based comedy, correct?
Yes.
But before then, and maybe continuing more recently, you're also known as a stunt person and a stunt coordinator. So you yourself have a bit of a taste for adventure. Can you tell us just a bit about that?
Yeah. So I started most of my career has been as a stunt performer and stunt coordinator. I did
For film?
Yeah. So I did my first stunt when I was 17 years old. I was doubling Megan Follows in The Littlest Hobo. It was an earthquake in a cave and a bunch of, fake rocks and rubble.
Was that shot in British Columbia?
No, it wasn't. No, that was in Ontario.
Even though we think of it as a BC show. Yeah.
The Littlest Hobo?
Yeah.
Really? Mm-hmm. All right. Well, he was a traveling dog, so maybe they traveled with the film. It might have
started here in the 60s before it went
Canadian. Really?
I'm not sure about that, but because we had the dogs visit our elementary school in Burnaby when I was a kid. Okay. I assumed they were local. Okay. Yeah. Well,
I wasn't quite that far back that I worked on it, but anyway, that was my first day on set, and I absolutely loved my stunt career. There's absolutely nothing like it. Yeah, just, the stunt community, certain people in the stunt community you have a real bond when you go through
Did you ever
like
get seriously injured doing any stunt?
Yeah, it's a matter of when, not if.
You're in good shape now, so you healed.
Looks can be deceiving, I've got a new knee right here, just got in February. And I had some injuries. One of them was... One of them's broken neck. I see one. You see my little scars from my halo right here. So I was rolling a car off a pipe ramp, flew up in the air, and it came down on its roof, and the roll cage caved in. So I had a compression fracture, and other things. But
we need another half hour.
Exactly.
Okay, well. Glad you're here and able to be making great films still. So, what is your best memory at the cinema when you think of yourself as a film goer, or perhaps as a filmmaker? What's your best memory of cinema?
Well, it's hard not to remember back 2 nights ago at the world premiere. I mean, when Bob and Bristol, and I were up with you on that stage, and the audience stood up, and I could just see all those. And I was standing there. These two guys in their 90s with their moose skin jackets, and where the three of us are standing up, holding on to each other, so none of us fall down, and to see how that group of people connected with them. It was
really special, wasn't it?
It was amazing. Yeah. But as a film goer, for some reason, the film The Hours really got to me, with the story of the three women and how they were all interconnected with Nicole Kidman and and Meryl Streep and Julianne Moore. It's seldom, I think, that I walk out of a cinema just being totally floored. And for some reason, that one really got to me.
Not only that it impacted you emotionally, but you admired the filmmaking and how it worked as cinema.
Yeah, I got a chance to work with Julianne too, and I asked her about the making of that film, it was interesting to see the difference in the making of the film and what we saw on the screen.
Okay, really interesting.
Yeah.
Now, the other question that we're asking all the guests here is, can you imagine an ideal double bill for your film, The Art of Adventure?
Well, that's an easy one.
Yes.
I mean, it's got to be The Woman Who Loves Giraffes and The Art of Adventure, right?
Well, that's quite true.
Yeah.
It's a ready-made, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is.
Perfect sense, thematically related. They're both by you, but they would work beautifully together, a female and a male angle covering similar themes and territory.
Yeah.
Yeah. And how can people see that film now? Zeitgeist distributed it at the time, but is it
Yeah.
Is it being available on Crave or?
Yeah, it is a Crave film. If you go to our website, The Woman Who Loves Giraffes, you can have other ways to see it, and it's also still being requested as people are still requesting screeners or to host screenings of it. So if you go to our website, and we've also got a website for The Art of Adventure. It's theartofadventuremovie.com, and there's a screening section there, so you can see where
it'll tell you where it's coming near you soon.
Exactly. Okay. And the other thing I have to tell you about is my YouTube channel, Free Spirit Films, because there's so many babies I had to leave on the cutting room floor, these incredibly beautiful scenes. And I think there's about 5 of them up now. We're posting a new one every week.
Oh, great.
So there's extra
content. That can just expand as a resource, so people who are inspired by the film can check that out as well.
Yeah. Well,
that's great to know. And we want to thank you so much for being with us here in Vancouver and entrusting us with the world premiere of your remarkable film. Thank you so much for programming it, Alan. It's been great. Thank you. Great.
Thanks for listening to the VIFF Podcast. If you enjoyed the show, please subscribe and leave a review. Also, check out viff.org to learn more about what's happening at the VIFF Center year-round.